Welcome, everybody. I'm very happy to see that we are with so many tonight to see this amazing film. Mohammad Reza Aslani was unfortunately not able to join us, but he sent us a little video which we will see before the movie, in which he gives a short introduction.
با سلام به همگی و من خوشحالم که این فیلم بار دیگر برای چند نوبت به خصوص در اینجا به نمایش در میاد و مطمئنم که من با جمعی از فرهیختگان مواجه هستم و این فیلم با تاریخ طولانی که داشته 50 ساله که در قبل از انقلاب سال 79 در واقع فیلم سرکوب شده بود و مورد نامهربانی قرار گرفته بود و بعد از انقلاب هم توقیف شد و حتی تمامی کپی ها و نگاتیوش لت و پار شدن در واقع و رفتند که به حراج گذاشته بشه و نابود بشه اصلا. خوشبختانه با اتفاقاتی که افتاد که اغلب گفته شده، چون گفته شده تکرار نمی کنم، نگاتیوش به دست آمد و با همت گیتا اصلانی و همت سازمان اسکورسیسی ترمیم شد. با ترمیم این من بار دیگر با فیلم مواجه شدم و آن چیزی رو که فکر میکردم از نظر استتیک به زیبایی شناسی و در این حال مفهومی که از این تاریخ خودش رو مطرح میکنه دوباره مواجه شدم و چون قبل از اون واقعا کپی هایی که بود من گاه حیرت میکردم که آیا چیزی گفتم یا نه، اما این ترمیم و کیفیت بار دیگه ثابت کرد که دال و مدلول، یعنی کیفیت و تکنیک و استتیک مفهوم خودش رو در قدرت خودش مطرح میکنه و اگر استتیک لطمه بخوره شاید مفهوم آنچنان که باید ارائه نشه. به هر حال این فیلم رنج‌های بسیاری رو برده، اما اکنون در اروپا به خصوص در یک موقعیت استثنایی قرار گرفته و فهم دیگرگونی از این فیلم مطرح شده که من میتونم بگم که فقط این نیست که خوشحالم، این هست که به این مسئله میرسیم که سینما به زیبایی شناسی یک زبان بین المللی است که ملت ها میتونن با هم دیگه با آن سخن بگن. من سخن دیگری ندارم و با احترام به همگی فیلم رو به شما میسپارم.
I would like to introduce our guest again. First, I would like to introduce Gita Aslani Shahrestani. She is a respected film studies researcher affiliated with Paris Nanterre University and the HAR Research Laboratory. She earned her PhD with dissertation that explores a largely forgotten dimension of Iranian auteur cinema. Her research delves deeply into the history and aesthetic of Iranian, Kurdish, and Turkish cinema, with a particular interest in how Persian mystical poetry and thought are reflected in the cinematic expression of these regions. Beyond her academic work, she is actively involved in discovery and restoration of films from the Middle East, collaborating with a range of institutes and film archives to preserve and reintroduce important cinematic heritage. She also contributes to cultural life on a local level as a director of the media libraries of Greeny. Please give a warm welcome to Dr. Gita Shahrestani Aslani. Also, it's a pleasure to introduce my dear friend and old friend Gawan Fagard, a distinguished writer, researcher, and curator whose work bridges philosophy, performance, and the moving image. Dr. Fagard teaches in the master program in performance and film studies at the Université Libre de Bruxelles, and also lectures in philosophy and cultural theory at Ritz School of Arts. His interdisciplinary approach and critical insight make him a key voice in a contemporary cultural and philosophical discourse. Please join me with a warm welcome for Dr. Gawan Fagard. I would like to start with Gita first of all, because after our conversation, we are gonna to watch the documentary, which in the beginning, I highly recommend you to watch this documentary because it works like a key and reveals many secrets about the chess of the wind. So I would like to give the field to Gita. And Gita, you yourself start as you like to talk about the movie and your documentary. Thank you.
Very, very large question. How can I say about the film? So, as you said, they made my father made this film in 1976, and he had some problems to show the film. It wasn't really easy, and we can see it in documentary. I explain in the documentary what was the problem, and. In 2020, we had chance to restore the film, and the Film Foundation support the film, and CINEMATEK de Bologna, they support the restoration, and after that the story of this film changed completely. His story of this film changed completely, and it changed the life of my father too, because during these 50 years he had this bad reputation that he doesn't know to make films. He is not good for making a feature film. He can just do some documentaries. And by seeing this film in a restored version, all the critics out of Iran, they saw that the question of the mise en scène is very important in his cinema. And this film doesn't match with other kind of Iranian film, and it doesn't. It's kind of different. Aesthetic is kind of different. So we have to see the Iranian cinema in the other way. And suddenly they understood there is another kind of filmmaker in Iran, and we cannot just refer ourselves to kind of social films or just not only Kiarostami. We have other kind of Kiarostamis too. So that was the very, very relevant for Iranian cinema, and then it changed a little bit his life, because all the time we have this shadow of this film in our family, and now it changed, and we talk about him, and we talk about other films, and we could restore other films too, and now we have 15 films that we can show. So it's a very good news for me, for him too. And that's all. And for making the documentary, so when I was doing my PhD, one part of my PhD was about my father's cinema, and especially this film. So I was looking to find this film, and all the time I tried to interview a lot of persons, to looking on the papers, on journals at that time. So I kept all this information as a researcher, PhD researcher, and so I make a film during this time too, and it took 4 years to make this film too. So after the restoration, it was the very high point of this research, and everybody wanted to talk about this film, and they wanted to give their idea and their what happened at that time, and suddenly I have a new story about this film, and something changed. So we will see it in the documentary. So this is the work of 4 years I made for this film and restoration of this film.
Gita, when your brother Amin informed you that he founded the negatives of the movie, did you know that you were going to be faced with a documentary, or the idea of the documentary gradually shaped in your mind?
Before that, I had the documentary. I was started because I was on my PhD and I was looking for the film during my PhD to find where is the negatives or positives. And I understood it's in Badi Studio, and Badi Studio closed because of the digital era. And I wanted to make a documentary about that, and suddenly they found the film, and the shape of the documentary changed. That is the interesting thing when we are making a film during the time. It's not just the 3 months I will make the film and I have my scenario. No, I didn't have the scenario. It was continuous film with documentation. So we don't have the structure. We have this global structure, but we don't have all the information. And these 4 years gave the shape of the film.
Did you start shooting your documentary during the process of the restoration, or after the process has been finished, you start to focus on your documentary movie?
As I told you, before restoration, I started the documentary. I started with the papers. Not the camera came later, but papers started before, 2 years before a documentary.
I will be back to you again. I will ask my first question from Gawan. Gawan, you watched the movie before, and I think it touched it. I would like to share your experiences with our audience tonight. What did you found, when you dive to the chest of the wind? What could you found as a non-Iranian audience? Of course, I think the language of the movie is international. And the film is like a prophet, predicts the future of Iranian political situation somehow. What was your experiences in confronting with this movie?
First of all, indeed, thank you to make us discover this film. And with that, I have to say, discovering a film is always something of occupying that film and taking it to us and seeing it in the audiences, whereas actually the film should have been there as other films are there. So the fact that this historical correction happened by your efforts is amazing, and it's a miracle, as many people have said. So sometimes in film history we find these miracles. So that's why we see it today on the big screen. But of course, the documentary you made about that process is called Majnoun of the Wind. And madly in love with cinema, that's what I would say is your father's best description, maybe. And not only cinema, but a cinema that I recognize in a sense that is full of references to all the history of art, because there is, of course, the architecture which plays a main role. The house is kind of a character in which everything happens in the huis clos. You have this claustrophobic and haunting feeling of that space. But you have the painting, the tableau, the structure of every shot that is very well researched, prepared, rehearsed. The time within that shot, and where you see that Aslani is also a painter from his background. So that's another thing. Than the music, which is a totally different music than the orientalizing kind of music that we would expect from an Iranian film. But it's a very eerie kind of thriller, like adding to the whole the structure of the film. And then, of course, and then the main point maybe is the poetry, where he is also, of course, well known as a poet, and you feel that he is a poet of cinema. He's not a narrator in that sense, but that there is a lot of leaps and a lot of interpretations and a lot of gestures and a lot of significance in the symbolism, in the metaphors. And then maybe to leave it there with my feeling is that one main thing that struck me the most is the ending. Because there I started to read the whole film in a completely different way, and start to read it not as a period film, but as an anachronistic film, a film that doesn't play in a certain time, but combines times of different, and then you see it in the architecture. There is this Jugendstil, and then you see there is the painting of the Qajar period, and all these different periods mixed through each other. And suddenly the film is about today. And you see modern Tehran and the architecture of that time and of pre-revolutionary, the last days just before the revolution. And yeah, you feel, okay, he sensed a moment in history where all this potential of Iranian history and all these different periods that came before, they collapse into this one image where the door opens of the house, we go out and go into the world, and there is something happening out there that nobody knows what it is yet. And this is a spiritual moment, I think. I mean, this is of course, then you have the Islamic Revolution, and you hear of that moment, the prayers and so forth. So this is some puzzling me what he wanted to say with that. But it's spiritual or revolutionary all at the same time, in a sense. That's my feeling about the film.
Thank you very much. Gita, in Majnoun and the Winnie, your documentary, you take on some multiple roles. You were the daughter of Mr. Aslani. You were the director of this movie. You were the narrator of the forgotten history of singular work, and also a film scholar. How did you navigate and balance this intersection position? Did the process of making this documentary reshape your personal and intellectual relationship with your father and cinema?
My relationship with my father was shaped when we started to talk about the cinema, and when I was 5 years old. So, because at first he started to show me the films he liked, and he think it's the main films in the history of cinema, in world cinema. And by seeing all these films, and he was very, very severe about that. And by seeing all these films, when I was 18 years old, I decided to change my country, to come here to in France and to study cinema. So that means I was very influenced by his view of the world. And when I started my PhD, of course, one of the subject was my father's cinema, because I knew he was very marginalized in Iranian cinema, and nobody knows him even in history of Iranian cinema, and nobody knows him in Europe and in United States. And I couldn't understand that. And that wasn't not just case of my father; it was case of 4 or 5 other filmmakers, Iranian filmmakers. So I chose to work on their films. And when I started this documentary, I have all these ideas. And when I started this documentary, I had to ask my father, because the problem was everybody says something else. And my father was telling another story about this film. And I had to argue with him to saying, so how could he justify he's not a liar? And everybody saying through the truth, but you are not saying the truth, or you are saying truth, but everybody saying are lying. And this discussion was hard sometimes. And I had to sometimes put my finger on the very painful part of his heart. And that was very difficult, because sometimes I am his daughter, but I'm pointing and saying, no, your producer's saying that. And he said, no, it wasn't like that. It was the other way. No, this is not true. And I said, no, I cannot believe you. You're the only one. Find me some, justify it. Find me something. Find me the proofs. And during these 4 years, he showed me how I was asking several times. By these several times, I had all the time the same answers, and having the same answer, showed me that he's not lying. And I asked the same question to other people, trying to put the question in the other ways. And I saw sometimes it changed, the version changes, and of course it changed my relation with my father. He understood I'm not the little girl who was looking the film, accepting his view. Now I am an adult and I ask him and I need the explanation. And this is the different relation with the father.
Because you had the role of the director as well, and sometimes you should to be a little bit cruel about some issues. And
anyway, it's a kind of documentary based on my PhD. I don't see myself as a film director. I see myself as a researcher, and the result is audiovisual. It's not on a paper, but I'm not a filmmaker, real filmmaker. It's different. My father is a filmmaker, but not me. I'm just doing researches.
But you had the key role for rediscovering this brilliant movie.
I cannot say I have key role. My father has this key role. My brother has this role. I am just there, just trying to connecting everybody. This is not mine. This is CINEMATEK de Bologna. This is Film Foundation. I'm just connecting. It's not a key role.
But you are a humble lady.
Not really.
Thank you very much. I would like to ask the last question from Gawan, and we'll leave you with the documentary because it's very important. After the documentary, because this documentary will give many answers about your question in your mind. After the documentary, if you have more questions, we will stay here to reply your question for a Q&A session. Gawan, as a scholar of both film and philosophy, how do you see Chess of the Wind negotiating the relationship between formal aesthetics and the theme of power, violence, and the disintegration? Would you situate the film within a tradition of a formally political cinema or not?
That depends what you mean by formally political cinema. But of course, I mean, I tend to look at films in their very specific context. And although that there has been a lot of criticism that came luckily after the release of the film a few years ago, there was a lot of review and a lot of critical acclaim. And you hear, of course, always references to Western cinema directors. Visconti is a big influence, of course, of Max Ophuls, very clearly, Bresson. You see these to the formal aspects of that. But we were discussing just now during the movie when we went out that there is also a very important relation to the cinema of the Soviet Union, which has a very different, and then we are talking about maybe Tarkovsky, maybe Parajanov, you see very much in this frontal and in these framings. And then we are talking about a climate in which these films are made. And I don't want to go into comparison between the political climate of the pre-revolutionary Iran and the let's say the Soviet period in the 70s. But of course, there is some kind of sense of a turmoil, internal turmoil, an intrigue, a system that is on its last moment before collapsing. There is this, which is metaphorically, I think, transposed to this. To this very situation in the house where you have the inheritance. You have these three layers of society: the aristocrats, the middle class, and then you have the working class. And you clearly see that they are trying to, that there is this hope for a revolution, which means that the middle class is trying to take the position of the upper class, which doesn't work. Or does it work? This struggle is there, and that the film is trying to negotiate these powers, these forces, and meanwhile also trying to build a very independent and a very unique perspective on this. So I see also the relationship. It is not related so much to the narrative tradition of Western cinema, but rather to this contemplative tradition that I see in the Eastern cinema a lot, and of course to the folkloristic elements, all the tactile elements of the glass, the instruments, the music, all these elements that he's bringing in with so much care. So it's also trying to say, okay, I am independent and I have my cinema and I will make it and I will do it, and not just trying to imitate some European art house. So then it's interesting, of course, when the film comes here, that now we are legitimizing it by the critical system of Western references and so forth. But I want to try, I would say, we have to see this film in its own right, and I reach out to all Iranians that love the cinema so much that they make their own cinema history and their own ways of interpreting film, instead of always referring to our Western canon.
You mentioned about the accessories in the movie. I firmly believe that some of the accessories and furniture in the movie, they work like a character in this film. And if we have time, I would like to ask about more symbolistic aspect of this movie after the documentary, if we have time, of course. The question was posed by one of the students of Tehran University Cinema, from you, this last question, which was a little bit unpredictable. I told him that I think this film is mostly formalistic, poetical, not political. For me, it's mostly poetical, formalistic, poetical. Thank you very much for your patience. I don't want to endure too much our conversation, because I would like to leave you with the documentary, and I hope you enjoy the documentary. And afterward, if you like, we can continue for our question and answer after the documentary. Thank you very much. And I would like just to give you the microphone.
Good evening, and thank you very much for the film and for your documentary. And as you said, it's a key to understand better. The only question which still is not answered for me is just a little bit at the end of the documentary. Why this title?
So you know what's the meaning of the Majnoun?
Yes.
Of course.
The title of your the film, Wind of Chess.
Chess of the
Chess
Wind.
of Wind.
Not Majnoun.
No. The film of Mr. Aslani.
Because everything, once he told me chess because it's a kind of strategic play. So this part is clear. And the wind is, for him, is the symbol of everything goes with the wind, and nothing stay in the same place. And in one of the scene for the washers, women, you can see suddenly there is wind coming and everything goes, and they didn't prepare for this scene, and they didn't know that. So he kept this scene, and they continue for this scene, and he was sure about the idea that the wind is the meaning of this. Everything goes, and nothing is eternal.
Yeah, I had also a thought about this, about the wind, in the sense that The film is very much also about the mimetic desire, in a sense, that characters want to be the other one, the one who is more above on the social ladder. And then the wind is the thing that energizes this, in a sense, that comes indeed from the workers who are almost invisible and who are not present and cannot play a role. But actually, a revolutionary wind somehow that blows through, and then you see it also in the windows. They go open sometime, and then the curtain is waving, and then some air is coming into this aristocratic world that is so stiff and stuck in its system that it can't breathe.
Okay.
Hello, thank you for this event. I was wondering, so I'm trying as much as I can to understand Iran's history, but I'm not sure. So, was this movie created? How can I say, like, because of the Shah's authoritarian regime, or was Mohammad Aslani already anticipating the revolution? How did he in what context was he thinking about this story?
He made the film in 1976, and the revolution was 1979, and nobody knows about the revolution and this kind of problem in Iran until 1970. At the end of 1978, the first month of 1979, and it was kind of prophecy. He just all the artists, poets, painter, filmmakers, they could feel there is something is changing. The problem, they were not happy with the Shah at that moment, because they lived kind of censorship at that time. So they could see the different political opposition, the Russia at that moment have a lot of influence in Iran. Communism was very present at that moment, and there was difference between communism and royal, and everything was like that. And intellectuals were not together at that moment. Some of them were very communist, some other were very royalist, and so that was what he felt, that the country is going apart and nothing will work because nobody's together, and just kind of prophecy.
Yeah, I think it's indeed a political climate that one has to really observe closely to understand the film. But I had this question too, like, to what extent does your father have this very... It seems that it could be a very precise, almost historical analysis of that time, that film.
What's interesting knowing about my father is that at that moment he had different group of friends. Some of them were very, very communist, because his family, one part of his family were very communist. Some other friends were very fan of and loved the king and this system, and especially Farah Diba, the wife of king. And the other artists were very European style and didn't think about the politics. And so he saw it's like that. It doesn't work. It's there, and everybody wanted to take the power, and everyone wanted to be king of the time. So in the film we can see there is a young man, he wants to be king of the industry, the servant want to be king of the others, the lady other kind, and everybody wants the power. But nobody thinks about the democracy and sharing the things together, just having the power. And that was the point he wanted to show, and he was just wanted to talk about that toward this film.
Thank you very much. Next question, ladies and gentlemen. No more question?
Maybe I have a question, since you we were talking about the title of Chess of the Wind, but why Majnoun of the Wind?
So, as I told in film, Majnoun is madly in love, and we use it in passion in two different ways. One kind is Majnoun really madly in love means you are very passionate and it's really great and it's a kind of compliment. And the other side, it means you are crazy. And during when I was in Iran, until I was in Iran, it means between in 1980 until 2000, they tried to say my father is crazy. But once I was, as I told, once I was at school and the professor asked me, who's your father? And I wrote the name of my father and said, what does he do? And I couldn't say it because it was, I shouldn't say what my fathers do. And when and she said, your father is him. Yes, I said, and he said, yes, this is my father. And she was, okay, the Majnoun. And I said, and I asked my father, what's Majnoun? And my father said, no, not only Majnoun, the sound and the image. And I didn't understand at that time, but later I understood, yes, of course, he's crazy about the cinema, but madly in love in cinema. So it's real. He's the crazy one, but in the good way now.
Yeah, and also Mr. Aslani describes in the documentary that in one of the documentary, Hassan Lu Cup or Hassan Lu Bowl, the main cup is less than this jar. And can you imagine 23 days they are working to filming this bowl from different aspect, not only just turning like that, turn around on the table. This is exactly shows the enthusiasm of this artist toward the image and his obsession to filming, and this makes the difference. Exactly, this makes the difference that when we were a student in the cinema faculty in Tehran, most of the Aslani's movie has been taught. Yes, when we were talking, and we are starting to recognize the world of the documentary by John Hassan Lu, and the frame by frame the professor described why the director chose this aspect. So if this is not a madness, a positive madness in cinema, so what we can call it. And I really highly appreciate this enthusiasm, and I wish a long life for Master Aslani, to be honest, because indirectly I learned too much from him. Next question, ladies and gentlemen. Yes.
Hello again. Do you know like what if Iranian people in Iran, what do they think of the movie? Do they even know? I mean, is there a renewal of I don't know, enthusiasm about this movie after your father being called Majnoun all this time?
There's two parts. One part do not like this kind of cinema, so they continue to say he's crazy, making this kind of film, and it's not interesting, and it's so boring, so philosophic, and so we cannot. This is not cinemas. This is just wasting time. The other parts, no, the new generation who learn the cinema by seeing all kind of films from all over the world, so they are much more open-minded about the cinema. So they say it's very interesting film, and they are very proud for everything happened for this film, and they say yes, he's Majnoun. He's Majnoun, because it's rare to have this kind of person who works like that with all this passion and this detail on a film. So,
Yes, with microphone, please, because all the voices are recorded. Thank you.
Yes, we got the opportunity to screen the film about Tehran. Do you remember a few years ago here in Brussels? And this is unbelievable, but because, as you say, he is so, I don't know, he's so fond of the aesthetic, he had filmed Tehran with a mirror. You were, I don't know, you can explain maybe more about that. But when you see this film, I don't know, did you see, Professor, this film, Tehran?
No, because this film is just you showed this film in the first version, and he's still in progress. We're working on the film, so it's not
the film.
Yes, it's in progress. Yes, we're working on it. So this film is.
Yes, you are going to. Oh yes,
and we are. This film, yes, he shows. The subject will be, we will see the film in 1 year or 2 years, and he shows all the city toward the reflect in the mirror, reflect of the water in the.
It's just unbelievable.
Yes, of course.
And there you see really this love of aesthetic. Yes, fortunately we will see it in a good condition.
Exactly.
I would recall a memory about Chess of the Wind. When we were young, we were hiring video players to watch the VHS cassettes. And on those times, one of my friends told me that I have a movie called Shatranj-e baad. And I said, who's the director? He said that the director is Mohammad Reza Aslani. And I heard a little bit about Mr. Aslani, but I couldn't imagine, and I was thinking that he is lying, because I was already about 17 or 18 years old, because I couldn't imagine that somebody can find this movie. And I got the VHS of Chess of the Wind.
So you have the proof, the example, who saw the VHS with the bad quality.
Yes, exactly with the same quality that it has been shown in the documentary of Gita. And still now, I have that VHS version in my archive.
You have the proof. So I'm not the only one.
And I did not copy that VHS. I did not give back that movie to my friend, because I thought if I want to copy this, the quality will be worse than this. So I will buy this movie from you. And I bought it. This was one of the memories that I had from the Chess of the Wind. Next question, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, Hajar.
Hello. Do you have any plan for screening this film in Tehran in private? I know, but is it possible?
In Tehran?
I know. In private.
They already did it.
Yeah.
They project the film. Yes.
Yeah?
Yes, in Musée هنرهای مدرن.
Oh, amazing. Okay, thank you.
Tehran Museum Contemporary Art.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Yes. Because we have a Cinematek also in Tehran Museum of Contemporary Art. Yes. And the screening was private with the limited audience, of course, which most of them, they are expert of cinema. Next question.
I have a question, if I can. It was burning on my, I don't know, if you could expand on the maybe, let's say, the feminist aspect of this movie. Of course, not only the main character is a woman, but she also seems to be, a lesbian woman or some. There is this homoerotic scene in the film, and I was wondering, to what extent this plays into the interpretation of the film as a. What you can say about this choice?
Just erotic parts of the film. You want to talk about it?
This feminist. How do we place it in our image?
For the erotic part, I can say the film is the main story is about between 1905 and 1910, during the constitutional revolution, the moment that the Iranians started to understand about that the feminism started in Europe and in Turkish. So there was a lot of feminists at that moment, literature. They wrote the article in journals, everything, and this is the why in this film the woman, the main character, she can read, she has glasses to read, she is very important. The other side is during this time until 1924, during the Qachar dynasty, the homosexuality was practiced in the house, inside the house. Even before that, we are saying that during Safavid dynasty it was something not really relevant, not really hard even, and it was kind of practice. It's normal, you know. It's humanity. We have different sexuality, so we do it, and so. There was kind of abuse for the child, because one of the scene of the washer, they talk about that the religious man, the Haji Amu, he abused the children and these kind of things. That my father tried to denounce this problem existed in Iran society at that moment, and trying to show that the homosexuality existed too. And it wasn't just something we, as religious, wanted to say it doesn't exist or it's forbidden. No, it's the natural thing of the life, so it exists.
And I would like to draw your attention about the time that Mr. Aslani made this movie. For your consideration, I would like to tell that it was the era of the film Farsi movie, which means that there were made too many films with dancing scenes, with sexual scenes, with very poor scripts, but they had a good selling in guichet. In this situation, the atmosphere of the Iranian cinema was mostly in a man dominant, but in this situation, Mr. Aslani made Chess of the Wind. He gave the most important roles to the woman without pretending. And as Shohra Aghdashlu said, that this fact, it was really, really important, because maybe afterward he couldn't experience such atmosphere. He behaved with all his female colleagues like the other one, and give their main position that they deserve, based on based on their knowledge, based on their experience, based on their art. And this is very, very important for me, and appreciated, highly appreciated. Next question, or last question, because we have the limited time, and now we passed already 10 minutes from our schedule. If you have no more question, I would like to say goodbye and thank you again. Thank you again for Gita. Thank you again for Gawan to join us tonight. And all of you which coming from Brussels, other city in Belgium, and some other countries. From Netherlands, we had some guests. From France, we had some guests, and from Germany. Thank you very much, and I hope to meet you again in our next event in Cinematek. Thank you and good night.